All right, I'm going to move on to the next topic. Somebody's asking me, Deep C6 says, what if you have experience, but you're not a great interviewer? Oh, yeah, okay, I got you on this one. Are there websites to bone up on security interview questions? Wow. So this one I have mastered. Okay, let me tell you something. If you have the experience, but you don't have the interview chops, let me tell you what you do. Okay, let me see if I can switch screens on this one. We need to be face to face on this one. Let me explain what you do. Practice. You write down an outline. First of all, you have to interview them first. Okay, you get the job, right? Let's say it's Ernst & Young. It's this job that I brought up on the screen here, right? It's Ernst & Young. Let me show you. Let me show you what you're going to do. You're going to interview them first. You're going to go to their job description. You're going to look at the overview of their company. What is their company all about? How many people do they have? 300,000 people. What do they do? Oh, they're in the financial sector. They do assurance, consulting, strategizing. They do taxes. Okay. Overview. What kind of benefits do they have, right? You want to know all these things. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Okay? So very first thing you want to do before the interview is look at them. You may not want to work there. You're interviewing them, okay? They're interviewing you, yes, but you're interviewing them. You don't want to work somewhere with a bunch of scrubs. You don't want to work, even worse, you don't want to work somewhere where the company doesn't take care of you, which happens a lot in IT, unfortunately, right? Because they're just trying to get that bag, the companies. They really don't care about humans. I'll tell you that right now. It's going to be there's slim pickings out there. There's not that many great companies. They're rare. That said, you're trying to get that money, so you're willing to put up with quite a bit. Read through their job description, okay? Read through their job description. Let me show you. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go this MailChimp migration specialist, and let me show you what I do. I interview them. So I'm like, okay, their compensation is $39 an hour to $45 an hour. Okay, it's a web developer. All right, I can deal with that. It's Robert Half. Okay, I'm reading through everything. What kind of experience? Experience caring for technical needs of the site, apps, and integration volume. Okay. Fluency with graphic illustrations and user interfaces, usability principles. All right, I can do that. So as I'm reading through what they want, their requirements and their experience that they want, I'm prepping myself. Okay, when have I done that, right? So for example, if it says right here, practical knowledge of HTML, CSS, I'm like, well, damn, I've written hundreds of thousands of lines of code. I've written hundreds and dozens of sites that have HTML and CSS. That's my specialty. So I can tell them how I developed a site for Ernst & Young last year. I could tell them, I'm thinking of this in my head. I'm thinking, okay, what can I say? And what you want to do, if it's sometimes a real intense interview, this last job I had, they gave me like 4 different interviews, and I got to the point where I was going to talk to the technical guy. So I was a little nervous. So what I did was I looked at their job description, right? And then what I did was I wrote notes. I created notes on what I was going to say on all the experience that they were going to ask me. They were going to ask me about risk management framework because they had that in their list. And then they had PCI compliance. I'd never done PCI at that point before, but I knew what I was going to say. And then actually I studied up on it. I was like, PCI compliance. Let me bone up on that. So I just went online and started reading about it. I was like, okay, I understand it. I'm not going to lie to them and tell them I've done it before, but I'll tell them I'm familiar with it. I understand what it is. PCI compliance is it's a framework to help protect credit card industry's devices, right? I know what it is. So when they ask me that question, I'll be ready. Once I write down my notes on how they're going to ask what's on your resume, all right, you already know your resume, so you might want to read through it just to kind of refresh your memory. But also they're going to ask you specifically what you see here, the stuff that they're really requiring you to do. The things that they really want you to do, they're going to ask those questions. Prepare yourself. Take notes on what you've done for HTML, CSS, and all the experience. I made a page for Ernst & Young. I helped Google create their main page. I helped Facebook create their meta site. Put that stuff down, or you assisted, or you developed it, or whatever. And then be ready to speak on it. Be ready by practicing. Practice the interview, what you're going to say. If they ask you this question, what are you going to say? If they ask you, there's certain questions they're going to ask you, right? They basically have already given you the answers to the test. They gave you the questions, They gave you the questions to the test in advance. And that's the job description. Get the job description and their company overview first. and then interview them, right? Go through the questions that they're going to ask you. They're going to ask you for all the requirements that they have in the job description and the preferred stuff that they have in the job description. You have the answers to the test. Write it down. Write down your experience on those things. If you don't know it, say, well, I don't know, but I'll find out. I don't know, but I'll be interested in getting to this field. I've never worked with a SIEM before. I've never worked with a firewall, but I really want to work with one. I've been anxious to work with one. Or I worked with one before, but it wasn't, we had a Sidewinder firewall. It wasn't an ASA or what. It wasn't a, right, stuff like that. Practice makes perfect. You practice it over and over again. So that way the nervousness goes right into, it goes into a baseline of what you've already practiced. And you're just like that, right? And if they don't take you, it's on them. Here's another thing I'll tell you about the interview. Like I said, you're interviewing them. So once they go through the interview, they're going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? Have questions for them. Is there any travel, right? These are things you want to know. You have kids. You don't want to be away from your kids a lot. How much travel is there? Is there travel? Do you have a relocation package? Do you guys have any flex time? Do you guys have remote work at all throughout the week? So what's the salary range? You got to do your research. You should already know the salary range, okay? So you shouldn't even have to ask. If you're not on that part of the interview yet, don't ask. Let them tell you. But you want to do all your homework and then ask them questions. Your homework should be so thorough that you ask them questions. When they say, do you have any questions for me? Ask them questions, because you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. I hope that helps. Practice the interview. Research their company before you even do the interview. That's what I would do. I'm pretty good at interviews.